If you're wondering whether probiotics when trying to conceive are a good idea or not, you've come to the right place. Today on Nourish, I'm excited to introduce you to a very special guest who has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to our microbiome and how it impacts fertility. If you're trying to conceive or planning to in the near future, you're not going to want to miss this episode. Stay tuned. Welcome to Nourish. Well, as I said in the intro, today we've got a special guest joining us, Nick. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having me, Mel.
My absolute honour. So, Nick, before we get into our topic, could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm a fertility dietitian and I'm specialising in women's reproductive conditions like polycystic ovarian syndrome, and how the gut and affecting the gut can actually improve outcomes.
Right. So when people think of gut health, usually the first thing that jumps to mind is probiotics. So what are probiotics?
Well, the official line on probiotics is it's a whole bunch of microorganisms which, administered in an adequate dose, will convey a health benefit to the host. And they usually come in the forms of powders and capsules and tablets and lozenges, oils, yogurts and drinks.
Okay. And so what are some of the benefits of taking probiotics when you're trying to conceive?
Okay. Well, we know that taking a probiotic can help with things like diarrhea and constipation. Mm-hmm. We also know that probiotics can actually help with irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel, and even vaginal thrush. But what we're now starting to realise is that taking a probiotic extends much further than just gut health. In terms of probiotics have been found to help with things like mental health, anxiety and depression. They've been found to help with heart health, and the list goes on and on and on.
Right. So it's sounding very beneficial, but surely there's some risks.
Yes. So there's some great studies, in fact, some 600 human trials, which have been found that they've actually found that probiotic administration found no adverse effects in terms of gastrointestinal upset, as well as any other adverse events. However, in pregnancy, it's a different story. Whilst probiotics have been found to help with gestational diabetes, which is a great thing for pregnancy, unfortunately there is an element of risk in terms of preeclampsia, and preeclampsia is a condition that can really harm mum and bub.
So then what are the recommendations as a broad guideline in terms of fertility and pregnancy? Is it that just take them when you're trying to conceive but stop them as soon as you're pregnant, or is there some other...
Yeah, I would seek the advice of a well-informed health professional that knows all about strain specificity and knows all about probiotics. But as a general rule, good idea to take a probiotic that has been found in the literature to convey a health benefit or solve a problem that the specific person is trying to solve, and then come conception or pregnancy, cease that probiotic.
So even if somebody's taking probiotics for another reason, so say they're taking it for irritable bowel syndrome or something along those lines, should they be stopping their probiotics when they're pregnant?
I personally would, due to that risk of preeclampsia.
Right. And then there's a lot of foods that claim to have probiotic benefits, so things like kombucha and yogurts. What would the recommendations be there?
So things like kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt, etc., kefir. There's a lot of probiotic foods out there, and there's a lot of sensational marketing as well. A lot of those foods and drinks are they're quite nutritious, and I mean, on their own, with the probiotic effect set aside, they're quite a good thing to include within a healthy, balanced diet. However, what we actually don't know is whether they contain a therapeutic benefit. And essentially, you need to provide that therapeutic benefit to be called a probiotic. So take take yogurt for example. There's a lot of bacteria used in the process of making yogurt, and unfortunately, the bacteria within the yogurt naturally is more around taste and consistency of the yogurt. So for the yogurt to be probiotic, the companies need to actually spike it with a therapeutic strain at the end of processing to really call it a probiotic.
Right. And so it sounds like that this is really quite specific. It's not just about taking any probiotic off the shelf or any food that talks about being beneficial for gut health, especially when you're talking about trying to conceive.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people have been going wrong. You can't just grab something off the shelf and hope for the best. It's probably going to be a waste of money. I liken probiotic strains to different dogs. Like, all dogs are of the same species, but you wouldn't send a Chihuahua out to herd a whole bunch of sheep, right? So I think that you could say the same with probiotics. You need to find a specific strain that has been found to perform a particular role depending on what you're trying to achieve or solve.
That's really helpful. Is there any final key messages that you'd like to share?
I'd like to just reiterate the whole importance of strain specificity. So that strain needs to have a well-characterized strain within a probiotic product that has actually been found to convey health benefits to the host.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your time and your insights.
My pleasure.
A massive thank you to Nick for sharing his knowledge with us today. We'll include his contact details in the description below this video. And remember that even when we're talking about probiotic supplements, supplements are there to supplement the diet, not replace it. A probiotic supplement won't undo a bad diet. So with that in mind, I've created a free 7-day fertility meal plan to help you optimize your microbiome. All you need to do is go to melaniemcgrice.com/fertility. And if you haven't already subscribed, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, as I've got lots of other fantastic nutrition tips to share with you about how to optimize your fertility. I look forward to seeing you in my next video.